Thank you very much, Pádraig. The time now is 20 minutes to 9. Yesterday was the 21st anniversary of the death of Phil Lynott, and that's why hundreds of fans turned up at Vicar Street in Dublin last night to remember him. And they got the chance to listen to previously unheard recordings featuring Lynott with Brush Shields' band Skid Row. The recordings date to 1968, when they were put on tape at a studio in Dominic Street in Dublin. Back then, Phil Lynott was 18, and the recordings capture, I think, the spirit of a young rock legend. Cian McCormack went to the Vibe for Philo, as it was called, to get the fans' views on this new old material.
There's a couple of hours left at the end of this gig. It's not due to finish up until about 1:30 in the morning, but the crowd is rocking and there's a plethora of bands covering Thin Lizzy tunes.
Okay, we're standing in Vicar Street. I'm here with a big Philo fan. You better tell me who you are and why you're a fan.
Well, I'm Brian Kerr. So this is the Vibe for Philo. This is the 21st year of it. I think Philo was one of my all-time heroes. I lived not far away in Drimnagh. He knocked about in Crumlin. Tonight is kind of like a renewal of those times when Philo was alive and was playing, and the excitement of Thin Lizzy concerts, which you can hear in the background, lives on with the packed crowd there is here tonight, the number of bands that have shown up to show their admiration and appreciation. The music lives on. There's such a mixture of vintages here tonight. There's a lot of young people that say they're barely I'd say younger than the number of years that Philo was dead. There's people here, and people of all ages in between, up to even my age and older. So it's great that the music lives on as it does.
And just on this 21st anniversary, as luck would have it, there's a question of some newly discovered songs. Lynott sings lead vocals on this track, Living in the Shadow of a Shady Neighbour. And also on the song Notion and Motion, penned by Brush Shields for his band Skid Row. But what do the fans think of this musical gem's discovery? Well, with a portable CD player at hand, it's time they had a listen to Notion and Motion.
Saying I love you and to me, and I know how it feels to be categorized real. Made my way through the air, the two wings as my heels. Yes, it's true that I find when I sleep that my mind is an ocean.
Mick Dwyer from Kilkenny.
Ben Swamp from Finglas.
Andrea Cochran from Tala.
Okay, you've just heard that song, 1968, Phil Lynott. What do you think?
Well, it's kind of like the early stuff was very Hendrix influence and all, but that didn't sound that much Hendrix influence. It was Gary Moore was playing, I think it was Brush on bass, Noel Brisman on drums. Just showed, he was only 17, showed you what you had ahead of him. You know, he's talented.
You could really hear in his voice as well that even at that early age, his voice had developed amazingly.
Yeah, very kind of a soulful voice, you know, and he had a very distinctive voice. You could still hear the Dublin twang there as well, and yeah, very impressed, yeah.
What about yourself, Andrea? What did you think? You heard it. Did it remind you of any maybe music from that period?
I just thought it sounded very bluesy, very good.
I hope you know the reason. Well, London's out of season. Satisfaction can be pleasing to those who run out leaving.
How exciting is this, that a recording from 1968 would actually be found now?
Well, for Tin Lizzy fans it's going to be exciting, especially younger fans coming up. like the older generation would have known Skid Row, like would have known Phil in his early days. But for any young Tin Lizzy fan coming up, it's a fantastic thing, like, you know, because younger fans were coming to the vibes and were only hearing the electric stuff and the old, you know, the stuff like that. But now they have a chance to listen to where Phil came from and where he started from and what he had ahead of him, like, you know. But I hope it comes out. It's fantastic news, you know, for all our Lizzy fans.
And Mick Dwyer's view that the recordings give new fans an insight into Lynott's early influences seems correct.
My name is Richard Moore. I'm from South County Dublin. I'm from Killiney to be exact.
Richard, you're outside, you're having a bit of a breather from the gig. What do you think of the 1968 music that was discovered?
Well, it shows the embryo of Phil Lynott. I think my dad was around and he enjoyed the music back then, and I think he's passed the torch on to me, you know, but he still loves the music, but he's passed it on to me, and I'm absolutely loving it, you know. I'm glad to fly the torch, and my generation, early 20s, they're glad to fly the torch, you know.
How exciting is it to have a recording from 1968 when he was in Skid Row, or singing with them at least?
It's absolutely riveting. It shows where he started, you know, and all us early Lizzy fans were, you know, we're dying to hear where he actually started, and now we actually have a recording, one of his first recordings, and it shows where he started, and we're delighted to hear where he came from.
Despite the excitement, tonight is really about fans hearing their king's call. It's a night to remember the rocker, the renegade, the poet, Phil Lynott.
He did sound good, didn't he? That was Phil Lynott's King's Call, ending that report by Cian McCormick from Vicar Street in Dublin.
Going everybody, 3 minutes past the hour, 7 o'clock, the last part of drive time here on One Day Fanning till 8. Michael Doherty from the RT Guide, he's going to be here a little bit later on to take a look at the movies ahead for the year 2007. But today, Irish rock giant Phil Lynott of Thin Lizzy fame, he died 21 years ago today. A day, by the way, when his very earliest recordings have been unearthed for the first time. Well, for the first time since they were recorded, when he was with Skid Row back in 1968. I'm going to play you some pieces from that, and an awful lot more besides. Philomena Lynott, first of all, though, Phil's mum, and that's directly after this. Phone number, by the way, well, the text anyway, 087 627 2222.
When I passed you in the doorway, well, you took me with a glance. I should have took that last bus home, but I asked you for a dance. Now we go steady to the pictures. I always get chocolate stains on my pants. And my father, he's going crazy. He says I'm living in a trance, but I'm dancing in the moonlight. It's caught me in its spotlight. It's alright. Dancing in the moonlight on this long hot summer night. It's 3 o'clock in the morning and I'm on the streets again. I disobeyed another warning. I should have been in by 10. Now I won't get out till Sunday. I'll have to say I stayed with friends. Oh, but it's a habit worth forming if it means to justify the end. Dancing in the moonlight, it's caught me in its spotlight. It's alright. Dancing in the moonlight on this long hot summer night. And I'm walking home. The last bus is long gone, but I'm dancing in the moonlight.
Well, like around this time then Eric Bell came along as well, and like you were very impressed. That's a bit from years ago. Big up, Philo on the programme, and we'll be back with that later. Oh, we got Philomena, we do, yeah, good. Hold on a second, Dance in the Moonlight, Thin Lizzy. Philomena, how are you?
I'm fine, love.
Good.
How are you?
I'm very good indeed. Now, Philomena, over the years, there's been an awful lot of people who've called in to see you down through the years. They leave things for you. They want to talk about Philo, etc. What's it been like today?
Oh, do you know something? I stayed home last night because there was a pre-vibe. And this morning, the first thing, the phone went and I answered it, and it was a lady. She was a journalist wanting to know what did I think of the... there's another lot of lost recordings being found.
That's right, yeah.
And I mean, I woke up dazed. I can't tell you. And that was the day has gone like that. I have, well, outside my door right now, there's some Belgian people, and they've brought their van. They call it the Lizzie Mobile, and there's all cartoon pictures of Philip all over it. It's a beautiful travelling. Live-in, transit, beautiful van. And they come over all the time for his birthday, and they ran concerts in Belgium. But I've had Germans, I've had Swedish, every nationality, and if you went to his grave right now, you would think we have just buried him. There are hundreds of flowers all over the place. And the house today, people say, how can you have people come through your house? But Dave, I used to have a hotel.
Yeah, that's right. Yeah.
And it was for show business people, and there's nobody madder than them. So I enjoy having them, and they love coming, and we sit and chat, and they tell me all their stories of how they met Philip and at different concerts, and the girls tell me how he chatted them up, and then they tell me about all their grandchildren, how they call them Sarah and Kathleen and Philip. And they've even called, one lady told me she called her guinea pig Philomena after me.
Philomena the guinea pig, right? Well, I haven't heard that one before. Something else I haven't heard is these tapes. I mean, I know that Hot Press brought out a CD some months back of demo tapes that were found in Trend Studios. So with these ones found again today, there can't be a whole lot more stuff out there, can there?
Well, it makes you wonder, because in the olden days, like when tape recorders first come out, we'd all, at Christmas, your ma'd be taping the kids talking for the first time and everything. So, to an up-and-coming 17-year-old musician like Philip, he'd be going trying to tape what he could. And obviously, these new recordings will be something in that kind of vein, you know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
I must have heard them in my day. But, I mean, going back 40 years in my life... Oh, God, the journeys I've taken in my lifetime. And then to be asked this morning if I heard them, no, I have to say no.
By the way, speaking of this morning, what about this florist in Sutton? What's the story there?
Of the what?
Of the florist in Sutton.
Oh, my God, the flowers. She has to do black roses for them. They more or less order them all in advance. And... I cannot tell you I cannot tell you how many black roses. You'd have to ring her tomorrow yourself and ask her. I love her. She's a lovely lady.
And that's for the grave as well as being brought to the house.
And they bring them here to me.
Yeah.
They're out downstairs. I've no more room in the vases, and they're all outside my back door.
But listen, Philip's legacy. The people who call to see you, they're calling to see the grave, they're calling to see you, and they're calling to see the 3 days of gigs as well, I presume. It's a complete Philo kind of 72 hours.
I tell you, I haven't had time to put a little bit of makeup on, and I've got to be down at the show tonight. I go down and I thank them all. I always go and I thank all the fans for coming and thank them for loving him and his music. But then I do shout and I say, don't love his lifestyle.
Right.
For the drugs killed him.
Right, yeah.
And that's what broke my heart all them many years ago. And I don't want another mother to go through what I went through. I visit the schools, the prisons. I don't shout, talk. I just try to tell them. I was in a prison just before Christmas, and all these young men, handsome, lovely young men. I said, look at you. You're a bunch of fools, I said, getting involved in the drugs. I said, the barons that get you trapped into the drugs, they're out in the warm countries living it up, and they won't put their own children on the drugs.
Absolutely.
I said, you should be with your mammies and your girlfriends and everything. And then there's our cemeteries. They're packed to capacity with the children dying of the drugs, and on account of them, the car crashes and the suicides. I lose my reason when I think about it. And there's not enough being done by the government to stop and to open up little clinics for them. Because when somebody becomes addicted to drugs or alcohol, and if they fall by the wayside, people just spit on them. I read in a paper once that some people pee on them. And that is terrible, because never by the grace of God go I. Because I know for a fact, I like a drink, but I know when a glass goes up to my mouth, something says, don't drink anymore, you've had enough. Okay?
But Philomena, what lightens the load? I mean, for instance, 21 years later, the legend seems to be only getting stronger. The love seems to be huge from all over the world. Can I just say also, but you have 2 grandchildren. You're now a great-grandmother as well, I believe.
Yes. Oh, he's lovely, gorgeous little boy. Yes.
And Sarah and Kathleen, how are they doing?
Sarah's out in Australia doing that year thing, you know.
Right, okay, yeah.
And Kathleen settled down, the little mother with the baby. And she worships him. She's told me she wants 4, 5 or 6. She's a proper little, she's a big mother. She's lovely. She's just been on the phone to me 2 minutes ago.
Right.
Yeah.
Right, very good. And Oscar is the boy's name, I believe.
Oscar, yes.
Yeah, very good.
Yes.
All right, well, listen, Philomena, enjoy yourself tonight and tomorrow. Because remember, what tonight and tomorrow is all about is a celebration of Phil's life. So listen, have a good time, and we'll talk to you soon.
Very kind of you. Thank you kindly, and God bless.
And God bless. Thanks a million. See you, Philomena. Good luck. Take it easy. Bye. Phil's mum, Philomena, and when I say tonight and tomorrow, by the way, I'll tell you all about them in a second or two. O'Shea's Hotel is tomorrow, formerly Moran's Hotel in Dublin. Of course, tonight's the big one in Vicar Street, which is the vibe for Philo, and all the bands play. I noticed actually one of the bands playing is Cold Sweat, and they're only the second, it says here, the second Finnish act to perform at the Vibe. And the first Finnish act a few years ago, do you know what they were called? Thin Lizzy. I kid you not. Now, let me see. We did mention those recordings earlier on, which have just been unearthed from 1968, the very earliest. I'll give you a little blast of this, and we'll talk about them too, because I haven't really heard this at all. I just got my hands on them now. And this is a track from 1968 from those sessions.
Easier
Now, there you go, from 1968. I did mention Unearthed, as in they've sort of been found almost just recently. Kieran Brannock, the owner of Avondale Studios, where Phil recorded this newly uncovered demo tape, and Kevin Brannock, your son, both here live with us in the studio. Tell us, first of all, Kieran, how did you come to have this demo tape?
Well, in 1968, Avondale Studios was only about 3 years open at that time. July 68, this band came in. I think it was Tony Bolden brought them in because he had done work with us before. And they came in, recorded all the numbers, and then I think they were hoping, we were in EMI building in Lower Dominic Street,
right.
And Harry Christmas, who was the managing director of EMI in Ireland, he was in his office underneath the studio, and I think they were hoping that he'd hear these sounds coming. He'd rush up the stairs, burst in and sign them up, and that didn't happen. So I mean, we had the tapes there, they went off, and we were expecting them in time to come back and collect the tapes and pay for them, but that never happened. So we held on to them, and then when we were moving studios later over to Herbert Street, they had become famous at that stage, so we brought the tapes with us. And then I decided I better bring them home because setting up new studios, they could easily get lost. And I put them in a very safe place in the attic at home. And
you
it
brought
was
them
so
home,
safe that...
with loads more demo tapes, or loads more tapes. It wasn't just these ones.
Oh no, not just we did the Kennedys at Castle Ross and things like that for years.
Right.
Doing those. But we brought these, put them away very safely, and then I couldn't find them afterwards, because there's so much stuff in the attic and going.
And
through
is that
it.
where you come in, Kevin?
I was searching for them for years. Yeah, I'd been hearing for years about these famous Thin Lizzy tapes or Phil Lynott tapes.
And you said, Dad's not going to go back up to the attic. I'm going to check this out.
Yeah, I was starting to wonder if they existed at all. So, I mean, the search was on for ages. I was a huge fan of everything Thin Lizzy and Phil Lynott. So I went on numerous searches around the house and numerous searches of the attic, and then eventually managed to unearth them there about a year ago.
And you've been looking literally for years specifically for these.
Absolutely.
You didn't come across any others, like any tape of the Beatles or anything like that?
No, it would have been handy, all right. Yeah. It was a nice relief to come across these then eventually.
Right, yeah, indeed. Okay, so what's on the demo? I mean, what did we just hear there? I mean, can any one of the three of us in this room give the title of that song?
No.
Not really, I can't, because at the time, as I say, you know, they were unknown.
Yeah.
You know, so to have remembered the name of the group was some achievement.
Right,
after
okay,
that,
that's
you know.
fair enough. Okay, so
you know,
what's on the tape?
Because
there's loads of stuff on it. So what do you think is on it, Kevin, or having listened to the whole thing?
Altogether, there are about 6 different songs. There's a couple of live recordings as well. Bruce Shields is the man who I played them over the phone to him a few weeks ago, and he was recognising them as they went along. And there was one song anyway that he said he hadn't heard since the recording in '68. He'd forgotten it existed, really.
Okay, and who are we talking about here? It's Phil, it's Brush, it's maybe
it's Noel Bridgman on drums,
Noel Bridgman on the drums, and Gary Moore on guitar. A
young Gary Moore on guitar.
15 years of age around
something
that time.
like that. Yeah.
Right. Okay. Very good. Okay. How were these songs? Like, to tell you what, it'd be better to talk to Paddy, wouldn't it, about this one here? Paddy, how you doing?
How you doing, Dave?
Paddy Gibbons. I can ask you now because you know this. You were what? You were the engineer on these tracks. Is that right?
I did the recordings. Yeah.
Right. You did the recordings. So I presume things worked particularly differently in the studio back then than they do now. So how, first of all, were they recorded?
They were recorded with 3 microphones because that's all we had. We only had 3 mic channels, and so what we did is we plugged the bass guitar and the lead guitar directly into the desk. So you took a feed off the back of the loudspeaker, so it went in on 2 channels on the desk, and then mic'd up the drums with one general overhead mic, a mic on the snare, close mic, and then a mic on the kick drum, and recorded the backing tracks first, and then played them back on a big speaker we had in the corner of the studio, and the boys overdubbed the vocals on it.
Okay, well, so it's not like kind of Radiohead or U2 taking over a stately home and finally coming out with a guitar riff after 9 weeks. I presume this is it. You're in at 2 o'clock, you're out at 6 o'clock, is that it?
This was like a 2 to 3 hour session max.
Right.
That was it. You know?
So no time for experimentation as such.
Not an awful lot, but there is on the tape, there is a little bit of experimentation, which I did subsequently, having heard the Small Faces and Itchy Park.
Oh, some phasing.
Yeah, I was
blimey.
making a dub, a copy of the track, and then running both of them in almost synchronization on 2 tape machines, recording onto a third, and then mixing the faders between one and the other.
And you played the 2 of them at the exact same time?
Yeah, and then holding my finger on the capstan roller to try and speed one up and slow it down so it would go ahead of or behind the other one to give you that phasing effect.
Okay, and like title-wise of any tracks, I mean, like, would you know, for instance, do you know which tracks you phased Ichiku Parky type thing on?
I can't remember which track I phased, but the one that sticks out for me was a thing called Notion in Motion.
Right, Notion and Motion. Now we have, I mean, like I have a bunch of tracks here. Like one is definitely, I've worked this out here just a little bit. Is called "You Fool You."
You Fool You, yeah.
Which is the first track.
Okay, well now, what you have is a combination of two sessions, right? Because what happened was, I recorded originally 3 or 4 tracks with Skid Row.
Right.
That's Brush, Nullick Bridgman, Gary Moore, and Phil doing vocals, right? And then they took the demos to London, and CBS Records subsequently came to Dublin, had a listen to the band, didn't like Phil, but signed up Skid Row minus Phil.
Right.
Right. So then Skid Row went on to release a couple of albums, but in the meantime, Phil formed a new group called Orphanage.
Yeah.
And he came back to me about a year later, I think it was about 1969, and I did a couple of demos for him. And the one that you've just played, I think, is one of those.
All right, okay. Well, so we might be able to get more, though maybe not, from the man himself, who was part of that group at the time, which is online, 2 or 3 now? Is he online 2 or 3? I think he is, yeah. That'll be Brush. But I just want to take the break first. We're going to come back to that. So, Paddy, hang on there, and Kevin and Kieran as well.
Mubel's Furniture Kilkenny. January sale now on. Visit one of Ireland's leading quality furniture showrooms, where you will be inspired by our displays for your home. If style, comfort, quality and service are important to you, visit Mubel's Furniture, John Street, Kilkenny. Free nationwide delivery. January sale now on.
What do you want to do with your life? Maybe you'd like to be a rocket scientist. Perhaps you want to design the next big thing. Or maybe you just want to make a difference in the world. At NUI Maynooth, you can choose the future that is right for you. From astrophysics and anthropology to politics and media studies, NUI Maynooth offers world-class teaching in its friendly university town. NUI Maynooth, where tradition meets the future, your future. Find out more at go.nuim.ie or text info to 51070. The Maynooth Experience.
Standard text rates apply.
Drive Time with Dave Fanning on RTE Radio 1.
Right, let's see, where are we now? Brush, how you doing? Are you alright? Brush is online too. Brush, there you are. You alright?
I'd just like to say hello to Kevin and Kieran and Paddy there, like that. Wait, jeez, we're going back a bit here, Dave.
Yeah, listen, I'll tell you what, we're going back to the point where, Paddy, how do you have such a memory of all this? How do you know? Like, there's a text here that says, I was around back then and Paddy Gibbons was famous in Dublin band circles for that homemade phasing thing. That's Joey in Clontarf. Paddy, how do you remember all this? Yeah, probably. How do you remember all this in such detail?
I just have an almost photographic memory, and I have always had, you know. I can remember things like back to the time I was like 3 or 4 years of age. It's just one of those things. It's something sort of stick in your head. And the one about the CBS guys, and Bruce will confirm this, they came to Dublin to listen to the lads, and they didn't really like Phil's voice. And because he couldn't play an instrument, they kind of said to the band, listen, get rid of him and you've got a deal. You know? And that kind of sticks in my mind.
All right, Brush, how much of the recording do you remember?
When the boys played to me on the phone, it wasn't until I heard it or remembered it, you know what I mean? I didn't remember it. If somebody had told me we'd done this, I wouldn't remember it. As a matter of fact, there's one song I wrote there called Living in the Shadow of a Shady Neighbour.
Yeah.
I don't know anything about it. You know, but that's not unusual for me because there's Japanese guys writing my lyrics down on the web there from certain albums, and I don't remember writing anything.
Was it autobiographical? Did you have a neighbour you didn't like, maybe? Can trigger your memory?
I swear, like, that was the 60s, you know what I mean? And for a guy who didn't drink or smoke, I was out a lot, you know?
Right.
I don't mean out of it, but I was out all day and night.
Right,
but
okay.
Like, it took me 10 minutes to remember the whole thing, the session and all, how the thing came about and everything. Because when I was talking to the boys sports, I couldn't really...
All right, I'll tell you what, I'm going to give you a little blast of a track now. This is called You Fool You, which is what I mentioned earlier on.
Fool you, baby. You've been messing with another man. You fool you, baby. You've been messing with another man. I've been loving you so bad, woman. Just like playing. Sorry, woman, you don't love me anymore. I'm so sorry, woman, you don't love me anymore. Can't you see the tears rolling, splashing down on my floor? been bit. You were a snake from London, and I've been bit. I've taken to your poison, just can't get rid of it. You fool, you baby, you've been messing with another man. You fool, you baby, you've been messing with another man. I've been loving you so bad, woman, best that I can. Oh, yeah.
I do, indeed. What do you think of that, Brush?
No, I think, Dave, when Kevin was playing me the stuff on the phone the other night,
Yeah,
he never played me that one.
Kevin, why didn't you play on that one?
Well, I thought I had it.
It's good, isn't it?
No, the reason you haven't played me that one, that's not us.
Wait a minute now. Hold on a second. Let's get to the bottom of this. Who's that?
That must be Orphanage there.
Yeah, that's Orphanage.
That's
Right,
not us.
okay, but that'll be Orphanage. Okay, well that's fine. So
That's Philo's song there. Philo wrote that.
Right,
That was
okay.
Philo, because I remember we was like them saying, we were all saying, shake a leg, shake a leg.
Right, hold on. Give us the years for a second. Could that be from the same year?
No, that'd be
No.
60. That's 69.
That'd be 69, exactly, yeah. Right, okay. But some of the other stuff then would be 68, and it's definitely your stuff.
I know my stuff, mate. Everything that Kevin played me on the phone was
Right.
our stuff. I never heard that one before.
By the way, can I just say that'll be 40 years old next year? How does that make you feel, Brush?
Makes me feel 40 years older than I felt earlier on today. I was feeling good when I got the phone call today.
Listen, by the way, it's the time of Blues Breakers. It's the time of Peter Green and Fleetwood Mac. It's the time of all that kind of thing. It's the year after
You're
Sgt.
basically saying it sounds a bit like Rattlesnake Shake.
Well, it does actually. It sounds very like that actually, yeah.
And which Peter Green got off somebody else. But
Yeah, exactly,
at that
yeah.
time, Philo was just, if you excuse the expression, feeling his way.
Right.
And that was with the boys now, which that'd be Big Joe Staunton and
Right.
Pat Quigley and, that, probably Downey playing drums there.
Right, by the way, there's a question here. It says, did Orphanage lineup have Pat Quigley and Joe Staunton on recording? That's
Of course
from
they did.
Kevin McHugh, yeah.
Those
Okay,
boys
by the
are
way,
those boys are legends.
Okay,
among hackney drivers all around Dublin.
Can I just hold on a second? Here's Philo himself on this very programme, just talking about the Skid Row days and that. Just a little bit from that.
So, like, then after that came Skid Row with Brush Shields and Ted Carroll and yourself.
Yeah, but Brian didn't join Skid Row. He went off to be with the Sugar Shack.
The Sugar Shack. And, like, what about Benny Cheevers? He was there on guitar as well.
Yeah, he was in the original one, yeah.
And then it was Gary Moore who came in, right? So,
Yeah.
where are we now then? Like, what was the lineup when Gary came in?
Mullick Bridgman on drums, Brush on bass and vocals, myself on vocals, and Gary Moore on guitar.
Well, like, what was it like in those early days? Because you've always admitted that you were into image more than anything else in those days. Is that true?
Yeah.
Totally.
Totally.
And, like, what about then the band Orphanage after that? Did the band Orphanage come after that business of, like, with all those people first? Like, you had Gary and you had Brian, and then a band called Orphanage.
Yeah.
With Pat Quigley and Joe Staunton.
Yeah, that's it.
And Brian Downey.
Yeah, and Terry Woods.
And Terry Woods as well. Did Terry Woods actually play in a band
Yeah, we
with you?
did one gig in John of God's, and he got up and he played Clucko, Hemp of the Railroad Man, and another one, I forget now. But we had a few of them, and the object was that people could come and have a blow with us and didn't have to be in the band and stuff. Because at that time, a lot of the folk artists were getting interested by the electronics, so, at the time we thought like we were the band that could help them out in that respect, but it didn't work out that way,
It didn't work out that way. There's a lot more where that came from as well. That is Philo talking on the programme a long time ago. Smiley, how you doing?
Not too bad, Dave. How are you?
I'm doing very well indeed. The
Very
vibe for Philo I'll talk about in a second or two. Have you heard these tracks? Have you heard these recordings? The Avondale tracks?
No, I haven't. I haven't.
So Brush has cleaned that one up there. That you fool you there. That was definitely Orphanage, right? But the ones you've heard, Brush, are definitely from the session from '68 that you guys did.
There's 7 or 8 songs there that were definitely from the sessions in '68. That was the difference between Orphanage and us right away.
Right.
Dave, I hope
Well, I mean, I think I probably would, but then again, when somebody comes along and tells me that's from 68, I'm going, oh, is it really? There's Philo doing the whole thing. I don't know who's playing the background. I can't see it. I wasn't there. You were.
I was there.
Right. By the way, as a matter of interest, Paddy, would you have done Orphanage? Would you have done anything with them as well?
Yeah, I did.
So that's the point. So you've done all. So you know which is which and what's
Absolutely. You Fool You was Orphanage.
Right, yeah.
And he did another called St. Stephen's Green and The Friendly Ranger. There was like 4 or 5 tracks with Orphanage.
Smiley, what's it like hearing any of these tracks for the first time and a very young Phil Lynott? What did it do to you?
Well, I think it's nice from the point of view that, you know, like it's a development. He was a very young guy. He wasn't so sure of himself there. Like, even now from what Philip was saying at the end, when he was always into his image, right? But he didn't really, he was developing, you know, what was to become the great craftsman later on.
Right.
So it was at a very sort of young stage. The embryos of ideas, as he used to say himself. So, like, you know, it's like any young guys going into the studio at 18 or 19, they think they're the cat's pajamas, you know what I mean? And, you know, it's so exciting. So, I'd like to hear them. You know what I mean? They could be a lot of rubbish, but I doubt it. If the brush is involved, they've got to be good.
Kevin, are they a load of rubbish?
There, Smiley, you were just teetering on the brink there for a second.
I know, but I've heard of them since, right?
I wouldn't cross over the line, brother.
Right. Listen, just as a matter of interest, yeah, in fact, I should ask you guys this. Look, hi Dave, great to hear more early Phil Lynott. Will the tracks be on release? That's coming in from Kevin. I should really be asking you two guys. I mean, I don't know if Brush wants to get involved in this, but will the tracks be released, do you think, you guys?
I suppose we'll chat more with Brush about it and see what to do, but I think they should be made available to the public anyway. There'll be a lot of interest in them, I'd say.
Yeah, right.
Yeah, it's a case of discussing
I think
this
we could
with
donate the money to Shelbourne Football Club.
Donate the money to Shelbourne Football Club.
So, you know, the boys could stay professional then instead of going semi-professional.
All right. But by the way, Smiley, like the Phil Lynott fan base, as I mentioned to Philomena earlier on, it's still kind of as strong as ever, if not even more so. 21 years later, why do you think that is?
I'd say it's because the music is, like, the real test of music is the test of time. So there's certain people, like I met a guy, a taxi man drove me this afternoon, and he's probably in his late 20s, right? And he's only now getting into the Beatles, right?
Yeah.
So, you know, and like Led Zeppelin, but you know what I mean? He was so young, and
there's whole families arriving now, Dave, that's why. Like, the mothers and fathers, their grandfathers now. You know, and their kids are into them as well. So you can, whatever it was, you can multiply by 3. Right,
yeah, exactly. I suppose that's the point. All right. And tonight, Smiley, what happens?
Tonight, Mr. Kite, stop on the veil.
Right.
No, it's a cracker of a show. Like, it's a beautiful show. There's a great band from Japan, from Tokyo, Japan. These guys, like last night at the pre-vod, they just wiped the place. And Dutch Nagel was he did the acoustic thing, absolutely beautiful, right? Really stunned everybody. You know, treating the songs in a different way.
I had a rumour you were getting Lordy from Norway, Smiley.
Lordy from Norway,
yeah. They're big Lizzie fans. The boys who won the Eurovision.
Yeah.
They would have been good crack.
Yeah.
Maybe
there's a band from Finland.
Yeah.
Who are they're really exciting as well.
It's Cold Sweat.
Yeah, Cold Sweat.
I thought Finn Lizzie was a great name.
Finn Lizzie's pretty good, yeah. It's not as good as Imposter and Alan, but it's good enough. By the way, Vicar Street tonight, anyway, it is, which is the vibe.
Are you coming down,
and the
Dave,
post vibe. I might go to the post vibe tomorrow in O'Shea's. I can't go tonight, yeah.
Yeah, tomorrow would be great. Like, back in Moran's Hotel, I haven't worked that room for 30 years.
Listen, it's been a long time.
Right?
I think one of the last times I was in Moran's was for the rats.
yeah, well, that's where it all is to go on.
That's where it all started. The Smiley got it all going there with Bob Kelly.
It was great.
All right, well, listen, good luck, Smiley, and thanks for talking to us. Take it easy. Enjoy it tonight. Thanks a million. That is Smiley Bulger. Vibe for Philo is the thing that's on tonight and tomorrow in 2 different locations in Dublin. Now, guys, seriously, if you guys do get this together, I mean, Paddy's still there and Brush is still there. If you guys do get this together, would you be thinking in terms of anything to do with an album, or thinking in terms of anything to do with a proper release, or talking to a record company, or giving a brown envelope to Brush to shut him up and make loads out of it yourselves? What is it?
One of all those.
Right.
No, very, very, very hard to know what you do first. And it's a case, as I said, of discussing it with Brush and that, as to what's the best way to go with these.
Right.
You know, and considering that then. I mean, there are various things you could do. You could put them up for auction.
Yeah.
You could go to Sotheby's or Christie's with these sort of things, they'd advertise them worldwide.
Well, and Kevin, what about you? Like, when you were looking through all these things and trying to find whatever it was up in the attic, did you come across other things? Like, was this marked? Were the names on it? Like, did you know who was who? Like, and why did I get mixed up with Orphanage and not Skid Row? That kind of thing.
It was just Skid Row marked on the boxes. They weren't very well labelled in that. So mainly just the odd track name and that kind of thing.
Do me a favour, play me that Living in the Shadow of a Shady Neighbour if you can find it there, because I'd like to hear this.
Listen, I tell you, if we can find it, the problem is trying to find which tracks are which. That's the problem, Brush. It's trying to find which tracks are which on this thing, and I've only got it like for
I've heard a bit of that one on the news tonight, and to say that's a good number. Living in the Shadow of a Shady Neighbour. I wrote it, boy. That's all I know.
That's all I if you wrote it, then of course
it sounds like a hit already, Dave. You know
I'll be filling out the MCPS and PRS stuff, and that's you'll probably get a tenner in the post. Hold on a second if I can find it. I'm not too sure if I can actually find it.
Brush, when are you going to pay for these? That's a big question.
You never paid for the session, Brush, did you?
That was just, we meant to come back.
Oh, yeah.
No point having the tapes filled with gone,
Yeah, right, indeed. All right, well, look, I'll tell you what, thank you very much indeed for talking to us, Brush, and thank you also very much indeed, Paddy. Paddy, by the way, are you still phasing your way through Dublin, yeah?
I'm still working away, yeah. I'm down in number 4 studios in Wimble Lane at the moment.
All right.
Doing radio,
they say, Dave, all musicians never join. They just go out of phase.
And by the way, what's Avondale these days? What's happening? You've moved, haven't you?
We're in Merrion Square now, in number 6 Merrion Square, so we're doing radio and television commercials
now.
mainly.
Moving to the financial centre after you sell these days.
Absolutely, yeah. Everybody's gone up market. Okay, well, listen, thank you very much, Paddy, and thank you very much, Brush. Good luck.
Thank you very much.
All right, take it easy. Good luck, and hope it's a big check in the post by the end of the year when all this happens. And guys, Kieran and Kevin, thank you for dropping in as well, and good luck with the tapes and whatever else.
Cheers.
And is Jim finished making a full copy of them? Jim's got a copy of them. I think, great. We're laughing. O'Connell Bridge tomorrow at lunchtime. Well, I'll tell you a proper goodbye. We might as well get it from Philo himself. Are you ready? This is when he was on the programme. Here goes.
So, Philip, can you say goodbye to all the people?
Yeah, I'd like to say goodbye and say hello to all the people that are going to come to the gigs. See you there.
Kiss to the green, to the right, to the left, to the full on, the flat out, straight ahead.
Love the idea of driving a really roomy, tough as they come SUV that looks as good as it sounds? What you want is the Hyundai Tucson. With its superb equipment list as standard and its highly competitive price, it's no coincidence that Tucson is Ireland's best-selling SUV in its class. The 2-litre petrol and diesel Hyundai Tucson for €29,250. Tomorrow's SUV, here today. Hyundai, drive your way. Delivery and related charges extra.
My first job, old lady's house, oak door and me. I was great. I had drama, substance. People noticed me when they walked into the room. But I'd been there for a while, and I was becoming part of the furniture. So I went to RecruitIreland.com, did a few coffin jobs. Then I got my first big break into films. See, when one door closes, another one opens.
There's always a better job on RecruitIreland.com.
Discount Electrical and Weston Gardner sale is now on, giving you the opportunity to see the latest trends on electrical and gas appliances. Huge savings on Britannia, Smeg, Dietrich, Neff, Siemens, Bose and many more. Don't miss out on our sale prices and expert advice. Discount Electrical and Weston Gardner, where quality counts.
How are you? My wife wants broadband and digital telly. Would you mind confirming how expensive my wife's tastes are?
Actually, you can now get them both for just $9.99.
Yes, but my wife wants them together.
As I said, it's only $9.99.
Together?
Together.
$9.99.
$9.99.
Do you not think my wife has an expensive taste?
Not in this case, no.
Will digital telly and broadband save my marriage?
Probably not.
I'll take it.
Not everyone wants digital TV and broadband for the right reasons, but if you do, you can now get them together for just $9.99 a month from NTL. Call NTL now on 1-800-234-234. That's 1-800-234-234.
$9.99 applies to the first 6 months, $45.98 a month thereafter. Offer applies to new customers only. Terms and conditions apply.
Drive Time with Dave Fanning on RTE Radio 1.
Okay, let's take another blast of whatever this track is called from those sessions from '68.
I have heard that lately you are amused greatly because I am blatantly saying I love you and to me, and I know how it feels to be categorized surreal. Make my way through the air, the two wings as my heels. Yes, it's true that I find when I sleep that my mind is an ocean in motion. There's a whole world waiting while you are contemplating as to whether when we're dating we should consider mating. Is it right for me to be a part of what my mind can see? Should I fall in step with you and take no sugar in my tea? Is it true that you find both me and life out of line? Set a notion in motion. Living is a no newspaper, right at the floor, already been sold. History told and retold.
Notion in Motion is the name of the track, and that is from Skid Row, or could it be even a bit of Orphanage? Anyway, it's from way back in 1968-69 direction from those sessions that we've been talking about. Now, 2006, it seems, wasn't exactly a terrific year for movies, if you judge by global box office receipts, but here in Ireland, we love to go to the cinema, and more screens opened last year.
Look at me and tell me truthfully what you see. Someone from the lower class who higher cannot be. So if you're all through, then I'll slip into your shoes. I have often wondered what it's like to be a friend of someone who is just like me, and with that I pretend I would keep this friendship though it meant my life might end. So if you roll through, can I slip into your shoes? Standing in something which has eluded me. My ladder of success, snake toil and slippery. No matter where I go, essentially. Thinking big is one way of getting out of what you're in. Dreaming dreams is easier, but the end where life begins. Hoping is the lazy man's way of getting there, but then I am wishing I was inside your
Now, there you go, from 1968. Now, this is called You Fool You, which is what I mentioned earlier on.
Fool you, baby. You've been messing with another man. You fool you, baby. You've been messing with another man. I've been loving you so bad, woman, best I can. Sorry, woman, you don't love me anymore. I'm so sorry, woman, you don't love me anymore. Can't you see the tears rolling, splashing down on my floor? Shake a leg, shake a leg. Snake, and I've been bit. You were a snake from London, and I've been bit. I've taken to your poison, just can't get rid of it. You fool, you baby, you've been messing with another man. You fool, you baby, you've been messing with another man. I've been loving you so bad, woman, best that I can. Oh, yeah.
Whatever this track is called from those sessions from '68.
I have heard that lately you are amused greatly because I am blatantly saying I love you and you me, and I know how it feels to be categorized real. Make my way through the air, the two wings as my heels. Yes, it's true that I find when I sleep that my mind is an ocean in motion. There's a whole world waiting while you are contemplating as to whether when we're dating we should consider mating. Is it right for me to be a part of what my mind can see? Should I fall in step with you and take no sugar in my tea? Is it true that you find both me and life out of line? Set a notion in motion. Living is a no newspaper, right at the floor, already been sold.
Notion in Motion is the name of the track.
There's a question of some newly discovered songs. Lynott sings lead vocals on this track, living in the shadow of a shady neighbour.
In the shadow of a shady neighbor, you eat your words at his back.
And also on the song Notion and Motion, penned by Brush Shields for his band Skid Row.
Lights repay favor, you're hoping he'll die now.
But what do the fans think of this musical gem's discovery?
Your savior.
Well, with a portable CD player at hand,
Playing your modes like a badge on a blazer.
and Mick Dwyer's view that the recordings give Lou fans an insight into Lynott's early influences.